Sorry, I'm up there talking to y'all. I'm muted. My bad. But again, I'm Geechie Motivator, and you're tuned into experience one of our Geechee Motivator conversation. We got two beautiful guests. I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. We'll start with the sister, and then our esteemed brother. We'll have him introduce himself as well, and then we'll get started. Go ahead, sis.
Hey, peace. I'm Sister Afi, and it's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. Go ahead, bro.
I'm Sutek Ra, and it's equally a pleasure for me to be here today.
All right, so this I want to start it off. And I don't know if y'all even agree with this, but it seems to be a wave of consciousness that's going on. People are becoming more aware, and if you've been in the movement for a while, you've probably seen up and down shifts. But if there's a new wave of consciousness going on right now, and this is for both y'all, what are you hoping to do with this new wave that's happening right now? What are you hoping we can do with this fresh energy coming out right now? Bro, we can start with you.
You say you start with me?
Yeah, we can start with you.
Oh, okay. I'd like to see us be more aware of the programming that's put us in the position we're in today. We do a lot of like black man, black woman. We do a lot of finger pointing at each other when really there's an unseen hand that's manipulating the whole situation. With this new wave of consciousness, I would like to start. I would like to see the black man and the black woman regain their unity and have a fuller understanding of the tricks and the psychology that's being played against us, so that we can unite. And because without that unity between the black man and the black woman, in my opinion, we'll just keep spinning our wheels, no matter how smart we get, no matter how much consciousness we have. If we don't have that unity between the black man and the black woman, we won't succeed at anything. That's my opinion.
What about you, sis? What do you hope to happen with this new wave of consciousness that that seems to be available right now?
Right. Well, I always have the highest hope that anytime we come into a new wave of consciousness, however long that it lasts, that it'll get us on the path of understanding that we are our only savior. We are our only resource. And the repetition of us going through these ups and downs of some kind of unity, and then the disbursement of that unity and that ebb and flow of that relationship we have with unifying with each other and dispersing in the Black community. I hope that every time it happens, it lasts a little longer and more of us come into the understanding that we need to take care of ourselves, because no one on the outside is going to do it for us.
Absolutely. As we and before we get deeper into this topic of consumerism, I want y'all to respond to this national or international culture of America that, in particular Europeans, but this culture that I would want to say is kind of like parasitic or contagious, and it enables us to do certain things. But when you think about this national or European culture, how do you think that affect the African person, rather than America or on the continent? How do you think this American or European culture has been affecting us with our behaviors?
Well, I think that we don't have a culture of our own as Black Americans. So because of that, we have to latch on to the culture that's most easily available for us to assimilate into, which I'm anti-assimilation, but this is nonetheless what's happening with our community as a collective. And because white Americans have no culture of their own, their culture mimics everyone else's culture. So America in general, at least the major ethnic groups in America, seem to have this very unclear, undefined culture, because that's what America is. Essentially, American culture is
Right.
a collection
Baba,
of
what would you say?
stolen.
Would you say that, or how would you feel that?
I'm sorry, brother, say it again.
I don't know about that. I went out just now.
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, well, you were asking me a
Yeah.
question,
So
brother?
yeah, in terms of like the national, international culture, the American, European culture, how do you
Right.
respecting us as African people?
I mean, well, I'd have to agree with the sister 100%. This is all we know. This is where our training has come from. See, I'm big on the fact that we're trained. You know what I'm saying? We go through 12 years of indoctrination in their school system. And then some of us go on to higher education, but then you got the media and all of that, and we're trained into this culture. So that's just all it's all we know. So we're doing the best that we can with the limited knowledge that we have.
Right.
That's the best I can say. As we gain in knowledge, then hopefully we'll be able to apply that knowledge to make our situation better.
Right. So, in thinking about consumerism, like I think how people hear it or think about it, it's like Black people buying stuff, buying power, our behaviors. My first question is: would y'all agree that if we have a problem with consumerism, it's a result of colonization? Will that be agreement? I would assume that y'all agree that, right?
I don't know if I would say that consumerism is you said it's a problem of colonization, like colonization caused the consumerism.
Colonization.
Say that again.
Yeah, like what would you say that was true? Yeah.
I think the consumerism is a result of capitalism and what makes capitalism function. You know what I'm saying? I don't think the colonization, maybe the colonization of our minds, you know what I'm saying, to make us think that in order for us to be happy, we have to acquire goods and services that we don't really need in order to keep this capitalistic machine running. But I wouldn't say it's, like colonization encompasses a lot of things. You can colonize a people physically, you can colonize the people mentally, you can colonize the land. I think it's colonized our minds into thinking that, we have to acquire goods and services that we don't need just to make us think we'll be happy by acquiring these things. But at the same time, it's keeping other people rich.
Right. Sis, how you feel about that? Do you think consumerism is a result of us being colonized, or like how do you feel about just the concept of consumerism in terms of African Americans?
I actually agree that consumerism is a direct result of colonialism. And I say that partially because of what the brother just touched on. As Black people, particularly Black Americans, we are super materialistic, and we do this ridiculous thing of buying to show that we are worthy or that we are equal. And the reason why we do that is because for 400 years, a Black man has not been able to be equal in wealth, to a white man. And the only reason why white people in this country, at least for the wealth gap in this country, the only reason why the average white man is wealthier than the black man is because of slavery. And slavery is a direct effect of colonialism. So without colonialism, there would not have been slavery. Without slavery, there would not have been that 400-year financial head start. And without that, we wouldn't feel the need to be so materialistic and consume and in such a voracious way that it has become a stereotype in the black community that the first thing a wealthy black person is going to do is go spend and give it right back to the system.
Right. So I don't want to put y'all in a position to go into detail about, you know, how you would want to respond, but my question is, how do we get out of this? Do you see it as like reforms and a gradual change, or should we be more like France Fanon, militant, matching their language? You know, obviously America's and Europeans' language is violence and other forms of domination. But how do you see us getting out of that cycle? Is it, again, reforms, gradual change, or is it something more in the tunes of France Fanon? And I'm asking this because we know there are a bunch of groups out there nation building, and we know there's probably even more people assimilating, and they're looking for answers, but it seems like even the nation builders or the nationalists are kind of divided in their ideology. So in your opinion, how do you see us getting out of those things? Gradual change or like something more militant? And any one of y'all can go first.
Go ahead, brother.
Yes. To me, the way I see it is consumerism is one part of the equation, okay? And black people are only on one side of the equation, and that's the consumer side. In order to gain some balance, we need to get on the ownership of the manufacturing side, not just producing, because we produce a lot, but we don't benefit from our production. Somebody else benefits from the fruits of our labor. So we're really only on one side of the equation. We're on the consumer side of the equation. We need to get on the manufacturing and the ownership side of the equation so that our dollars will circulate more. Right now, when you just on the consumer side, your dollars won't circulate. You won't see the fruits of your labor, and then you'll remain in poverty. So, you know, in my opinion, we need to get on the other side of the equation as well as being on the consumer side of the equation. And I think that'll help balance some things out so that we can then in turn address some of the other issues that you're talking about.
And would you say that would look we have to accept that it will be gradual and like reforms of policies and stuff? Or is it like, do you think
nothing's going to happen overnight? Nothing's going to happen overnight because black people have to go through a whole new training process. You know what I'm saying? My mother always say, a fool and his money is soon parted. In my opinion, we're still fools with things. You understand what I'm saying? In this system, and I'm not speaking of everybody, but when you look at how black people are manipulated in this country, you know, you could tell, you know, we not on the ball with the game that's being played. You understand? Everybody else is playing chess. We're playing checkers, you know. So, you know, yeah, it's going to be gradual because we have to. Delbert Blair wrote a book, The Nigger Factory. Mm-hmm. We got to stop letting them make Negroes out of us. You understand what I'm saying? We have to take responsibility for educating our children because all we keep doing is giving them a new crop of Negroes to manipulate. We have to take responsibility for educating our children so that when they come into manhood and womanhood, we could start making the changes that's necessary so that we can get on the other side of that equation. So yeah, I believe it's going to be gradual.
Okay. All right. And so if you're watching this on the Geechie Motivator page on Facebook, hit share. Or you can be watching on YouTube. Definitely hit share. Share with your peoples. Sis, what do you think? Is there going to be this gradual reforms, or do you think we need to be a little bit more militant or more Frantz Fanon-ish?
I definitely think we need to be a little more militant, but I believe that it's impossible. I absolutely believe that it's impossible to achieve sufficient reform as a part of the American system the way it is now. We've had continuous attempts at reform, and to no avail, to no progress. As a Pan-African and as a separatist, I believe that the only way for us to get ahead of that ball is for us to practice group economics. So reform into the system that was designed broken or designed to not work in our favor, I think is a waste of time. I think it's a ridiculous thing for us to keep having conversations about reform in the American system when we all know that there's no way it's going to work for us. I think the key is for us to do what the Asians and the Arabs and every other immigrant who comes here and does, and that is group economics, because capitalism wouldn't be an issue if we were spending our money with ourselves. It wouldn't matter who was spending how much or how little, because we knew at the end of the day it would be beneficial to us, no matter what the amounts from each individual's looks like. So until we understand that we have to spend our money primarily and first with those who look like us, and not only that, but those who have the same end goals and philosophies in mind, then we're not going to get anywhere. We're going to be forever, on this hamster wheel, thinking that, some president or some politician passes some reform law, and for some reason, we got a bone thrown at us, and now that equals some type of progress.
So tell me this: what do you think? And I think we're going to get into this. Get into more of that thought in the next question after this one. But what do you think are some myths or mythologies that are hurting our people, especially when it comes to money, consuming, and those things? What do you think are some myths that are hurting our people?
That money is the root of all evil. No, the love of money is the root of all evil. I think that's a myth. Our money is just a tool. It's a tool, and once you learn how to use the tool, then you can build things with it. But it's a lot of people. When you start bringing up money in conversations, they try to look for that back door to get out of that conversation. And we need to have conversations about money, like the sister said. The key to succeeding in capitalism is group economics, but they teach you individualism to keep you from succeeding in capitalism. You understand what I'm saying? The rich people at the top, they don't practice individualism. They practice group economics, but they in the masses, they want to preach individualism, knowing that as an individual, you will never be able to compete and be a threat. So, we need to have serious conversations about money and how to properly use it.
Absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I also think that another big myth that I think we tend to fall into as business owners is that we cannot run successful businesses with just targeting the Black community. That's a big myth that I run into on a consistent basis, because I pander to no one outside of the Black community, and I advertise to no one outside of the Black community. And I have no issues. But on a constant basis, I do see people that for some reason their business may not be as successful as they'd like, or it's going a little slower than they'd like, or just outright failed. And one of the first excuses they have is, Black people don't support Black people, or their services or products were just too Black focused. So they feel like if they can expand to catch the attentions of people in other ethnicities, that for some reason that will help them get further faster. I'm just one person that disagrees with that, just because we're in America and because of racism by proxy. And the truth of the matter is, someone can really like your whatever you're selling or your service, but Jewish people aren't going to patronize you. You can have an amazing service at a better price. They're going to go to their brother or their sister down the street. That's the same thing the Asians are going to do. That's the same thing the Jewish people are going to do. And it's the same thing that most white people do. We are the only ethnic group in America that does not understand that you break bread with your brother before you go down the sidewalk and knock on your neighbor's door and offer them a slice of bread. We don't get it. We want to feed everyone else outside of our neighborhood before ourselves.
Right. I'm glad you said that. One of the things that I like to argue when people talk about financial literacy, and I'm like, no, we need to teach people economics more, right? Because mostly when you said financial literacy, you're probably not talking about your economic practice that you believe in, which is normally capitalism. But in everybody's economics, like you said, boycott is a part of their economics. We reactively boycott. We only boycott when somebody makes us mad, and we boycott for like 3 weeks, and then we go back to give them our money. So I'm glad that you brought that up. I got one question from the audience.
Can I add to what the sister said real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, and then we'll answer this question.
I want to add something real quick to what the sister said, just to build on it. That excuse that she was talking about that Black people throw out there, that their businesses aren't successful because Black people don't support. The fact of the matter is that within 5 years, 50% of all small businesses fail in the first 5 years. And 75% fail within the first 10 years. So, and there's reasons for that. And that's across the board. That's not a Black thing, a white thing, an Asian thing. That's, Small Business Administration numbers across the board, all ethnic groups. So to say that we don't support, I don't think that's a good excuse for people's business failings. One of the main two reasons for why small businesses fail is lack of funding and lack of business expertise.
Okay.
And I agree with that.
And I think that's not only going to get us into the question from the audience, but our next question as well. From the audience is, are we truly in a capitalistic society? Where's the free market? More like pseudo-capitalism. Do y'all feel, a lot of times people say, oh, capitalism. But like if you look up capitalism, because of the government's interventions and handouts to white folks and exclusion of African people, are we really in a capitalistic society? Is there really a free market, or was it something different?
I think that we are in a free market, and I was trying to catch the sister's name. Thank you, sister. But I do think that we are in a free market, because it's very clear that anyone in this country can advertise or make available any service or product. And if it's not something that's sanctioned by a government agency, then you can absolutely set whatever price that you like. It can be a ridiculous price. See, either someone's going to pay for it or someone's not. Essentially, that is the essence of a free market. So if we're going to go by that definition, then yes, we do have to say that we are in a true capitalistic society. Do we need to be is another thing. And that I do not think we need to, because like I mentioned earlier, I believe that capitalism is direct result of colonialism. So we have to ask ourselves, well, how did we get along before colonialism? And of course, there were types of currency, but I think we're losing just being able to trade and barter, just being able to do an exchange, one service or one product for another. So we don't have to stay in a capitalistic machine, whether it's pseudo or actual.
So Baba, what you think? Because sometimes there's this notion that when they did the land grabs, the KKKs and the government stopped Africans from getting it. When the oil popped up, it was in land that white America got. Slavery, Jim Crow, all these other things. Could you really say that it's free and all of us can have access to capital and producing, or is it?
Right.
How you feel?
I believe we are truly in a capitalist society, and I think it's a free market. I think what holds us back is our ignorance as to how capitalism works. I don't think that, Black people understand the rules and regulations in capitalism. I don't think they understand how to manipulate this system. Like I said before, and like the sister said, if we practice group economics, we can win in capitalism. I believe, my opinion is, as a minority in this country, a large minority, but nonetheless a minority in this country, our best venue or vehicle for progress economically is a capitalist system because of the free market, because of the flow of money. When you look at capitalism, you have capitalism, racism, and white supremacy. All three of them are systems. When you're a systems analyst, you realize that all systems have weaknesses. And the weakness of the capitalist system is the currency. The currency flows. Anybody could get in the flow. You can get in the flow of the currency. You just have to know how to control it, manipulate it, and make it work for you. So that's my opinion on that. We're in a capitalist system, but see, to what the sister says also about working in another system, we have to start from where we are. The world is in all over this planet. All the economic systems are some form of capitalism. Like they say they may have communism in Russia, but the economics over there is really capitalism because the people control, the individual controls the means of production over there. And that's all capitalism is the individual controls the means of production. So the world is capitalism. I think we have to start here. Start with that. Build, understand how it works, master that, and then we can move on to make some type of change that'll may more suit us morally and ethically.
So, sis, I saw you come off mute. Did you want to respond, or you want me to go to the next question? Because we're going to stay here for a second.
Yeah, I have a response. I agree that Europeans have, kind of cast the idea of capitalism across the globe. I don't believe that the individual citizens of different countries necessarily function under a capitalistic society. Communist societies, the individuals don't control the supply and demand. The government does. So all governments are absolutely functioning in a capitalistic society because they govern. They trade amongst each other. So some kind of barter or trade or purchase or whatever the case is, Russia may be doing with America, that's absolutely going to fall under capitalism. But for example, if we have China, when they were under massive communist rule, their citizens could not set prices. Their citizens could not set demands. The government did averages of what people needed, how much they needed, and when they needed, and then they went forward that way. Which is a whole nother conversation. I don't necessarily believe in all aspects of communism, but when you remove government from the equation, I believe communism can be a beautiful thing. I think we've been under the individualistic mode of society for so long that we don't realize that everyone sharing what everyone has in a systematic fashion can eliminate a lot of the disparities that we have, like starvation and lack of education and lack of medical attention, and this, that, and the third. And that's the village mentality. What you don't have, if I have a surplus of, I give it to you, and what you have a surplus of, you give it to me. That's the way. That's the African way. That's the way it should be. But because of European capitalism, we've gotten away from that, and it's going to continue putting us in the individualistic mind frame, because essentially capitalism is anyone can get rich and they have no responsibility of giving anything that they've obtained to anyone else under any circumstances. Capitalism is not just setting a price however you see fit. It is, you don't owe anyone anything. That's how the 1% in this country continue to stay rich and get richer, because there is no ceiling.
So Bob, I want you to go, and then when you go, after you go, I want us to see if we can get a snapshot of how we define capitalism. And then so I'm an anti-capitalist. I don't subscribe to capitalism. I think it's parasitic. I'm more communalism, communalism, right? Just like the sis said, the ownership of the community. I'm more of a sovereignty base. But after you go, give us your definition of capitalism.
Okay, I want to ask the sister a question, and maybe you could chime in on it too.
Okay.
When you have multicultural societies, like most of the communist nations are pretty dominantly one type of people. China, Chinese. Russia, it's all white Russians, right? When you have a multicultural society, if we were black in China, we would still face racism regardless, I believe. If we black in Russia under a communist system, we still gonna be on the bottom facing racism, because that's the human element. We can look at the theories of these socioeconomic platforms, but we got to add in the human element to it also. So, with how would we fit in a communist system, in a multicultural environment, if we not the dominant culture?
That's a question for me.
Well,
I mean, I'm a Pan-African. I have no interest. I have no interest in building any kind of financial or resource system with anyone that doesn't look like me.
And
so it's a question I can't answer.
Let me ask you this. In Africa, like this is how I see it. As a black person, I see all white people as just white. Russian, Italian, English, they're all just white. But as a black person, and I'm sure in Africa, a Guyanese would look at a Nigerian and say, he's Nigerian. I'm from Ghana. Like, it's not that homogenious. Like, we look at Pan-Africanism, but like from here in America, as a black American, I look at Africa, I look at it as homogenous. But that's your personal perspective, because I can guarantee you a Scandinavian has no interest in building a business with an Irishman. Exactly.
You're just putting them all in the same pot. But when
they look at us, they see us just as all black. But the Italian would say, "Oh, he's French. I'm Italian." Like, they see the differences. We don't see the differences. But when we think of Pan-Africanism and only dealing with Pan-African, like, I'm not saying you particularly, but sometimes I've noticed, in the black conscious community, we think that Africa is this homogenous one black nation, when in actuality, you have a lot of different cultures over there who don't look at all of them as being the same as we may look at them as being the same. So in terms of going over there doing business.
So I don't know if that's, sis, are you still there?
I am. I'm here.
How does that work?
I think that what you just said applies to people who don't understand what Pan-Africanism is. Pan-Africanism is not solely dealing with people who believe or identify as being African. It's all of us that have been cast in the diaspora. Whether
Right.
they want to acknowledge their African heritage or not is neither here nor there. Because I have no interest. I mean, I have no issue in giving a Hebrew Israelite brother my money before I give a white man my money. So it doesn't matter if the other black person is a Pan-African. I just personally identify as a Pan-African.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's the same thing that Europeans do. All Europeans don't see themselves, well, Americans here, white Americans may put all Europeans in a melting pot, but if you go over to Europe, that's not the case. As a matter of fact, they don't even all necessarily stick by countrymen. A lot of different European countries are just as tribal as African countries.
Okay.
So
even within their individual countries, they have different tribes of people, or different, I guess tribe wouldn't be the European word that they would use, but you know what I mean? Different ethnicities, and they would stick within their small little ethnicity, even though there may be, 20, 30 other different ethnic groups that belong to their one country.
Right.
One of the things I heard in that question, like for instance, if we were to go to China, we will still be under some kind of thing. Like, so when I think about hegemony, or I think about being dominated at any rate, I'm not so focused on the economics practice that those people have as I am on liberation. So African people need to be able to determine the economic practice that's going to be best for them, right? So if it's communalism, not communism, but like a community own things, and nobody is taking more than they need, and everybody work for something. There's no hierarchy in terms of pay, and there's no poverty or whatever among the group. I think that has to be for them. So I don't look at us going under from one oppressor to the next oppressor. So I'm gonna read my definition of capitalism. I end up like printing this T-shirt in Gullah, and then I did it in English on the back. But I think capitalism is a social and political war tactic practiced by those who own and control land, capital, equipment, and other resources. They enter exploitive contracts with those who are propertyless. The propertyless, in exchange for low wages, give up all their rights to what they produce with their labor to the owner's capital. Like, I don't see anything good about capitalism. I think it's parasitic. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't want Africans to feel like, oh, we have to practice capitalism because that's what Europeans do. Like, we should never be exploiting each other. We didn't. That's not natural of us. That's something that is kind of forced from us, because we talk about consumerism, and I think one of y'all agree that consumerism is a result of colonialism or colonization. So we got to know that behaviors, these behaviors or ideologies are not our own. And so I mean, what do you think about that? When you think about this, I've never seen capitalism practiced in a fair way, if you want to call it fair. I don't even think it's fair in itself. But what do you think about when you think about capitalism as an exploitive economic practice? Like, would you go as far as to say that?
I would say that, but I would say the world isn't fair. Capitalism, what makes capitalism go is competition. So people are competing. You come out with a hamburger and it's selling, I'm going to come out with a hamburger and try to compete with you. You come out with a car, I'm going to make a car to try to compete with you. That's what capitalism is. And the motivation behind capitalism is the profit motive. Now, like I said earlier, all capitalism is a system on paper. It's the human element that makes capitalism either evil, as you were saying, or listen, if you put righteous people head of a major corporation, and they say, you know what, we're going to make all the employees shareholders, and we're going to distribute the profits, and everybody's going to live. That's a capitalist system. But the people
that's communism. That's communism. When you have one group of people over the distribution, the collection, the management of all of the resources or the intake, that is the definition of communism. So it wouldn't be capitalism.
I didn't say. I'm saying one company. I was just saying one company, not a country. Like, say if in the United States you had say Ford Motor Company. Ford Motor Company said, in the United States, the employees are going to be shareholders. We're not going to make them work long hours. We're going to give them a livable wage. We're not going to pay a minimum wage with the government said. We're going to give them a livable wage, and we're not going to be concerned with, maximizing our profits to your detriment, then that works. You know what I'm saying?
But that's still communism.
How is that communism?
Because if one or a group of people are over the control of the distribution of whatever is coming in, that is effectively capitalism. Because communism is everyone is equal. So there is no, we're going to give you a wage. It is after everything has been brought into the pot, however many people are involved, it's going to get divvied up equally. That would be true communism.
That's not what I just said. I said the people said we'll give you a livable wage. So instead of paying you $7.50, which is the minimum wage, we're going to pay you $20 an hour so that you can live.
So everyone in the company, no matter what their position is, will be making the $20 an hour.
No.
Then it's capitalism. It couldn't be communism.
I'm saying it's capitalism. I'm not saying I'm saying it's capitalism. But what I'm saying is, it's the human element. You got the people now. It's like, okay, the government says I only have to pay you $7.50. I'm gonna pay you $7.50. So, what I'm saying is that you got to look at the human element. You say it's evil, but the people at the top, those
human
people.
I mean, the people at the top would just be a little bit nicer than the other people that take full advantage. It doesn't mean that they're doing anything that's necessarily equal or in a collective or community fashion. It's still capitalism.
So you're saying that regardless of what your position is,
okay, example. I have a good example. Okay, like Jeff Bezos, right? The owner of Amazon, right? Okay, so however he decided, came to the decision, or his board came to the decision that they're at minimal, the lowest person on the total poll that works for Amazon in any capacity would be paid $15 an hour. So no matter who they are, they're getting a beyond livable wage for America, $15 an hour. No matter if you're emptying out the trash at the end of the day, washing the windows, or packaging the boxes, you're getting $15 an hour. Bezos is still a billionaire. It's not like he took all of his wealth and divvied it up. It's not like all of the money that's going to come in 2001 is going to be divvied up equally. That's not how it works, because there's going to be executives and different people on different levels that's going to make different amounts of money. So it doesn't work that way.
What's the incentive of being the executive as opposed to being the trash guy?
But that's what I'm saying. That's why it's capitalism. It's capitalism because those that are getting the incentives are capitalizing on the incentives.
Hold on. Let me ask you a question.
I'm lost in the conversation now.
Let me ask that. I think that's why we have to get back to, and we're gonna get into some more questions, but that's where we have to get back to the definition, because you said, Bobby, the human element, and right. I don't know how much of Urugu that we've read or learned, or just the concept of European culture and Indo-Europeans, I would say damn near innate ability to dominate the other, whether it's women or other people. So if you have an ideology and a culture that dominate other, everything that you create is going to be parasitic. So you will create things like capitalism. That don't mean that capitalism just this thing and like the God created it. It's a economic practice created by parasitic people. You know what I mean? So, and that's not the only kind of economic practice we have to have. So it's not saying that oh, that's just human nature. Capitalism is human nature. No, capitalism is a creation by parasitic people who intend to dominate other people. You would be an imperialist if you want to, create a system like capitalism. That's what imperialists do. They want to.
So you're saying that in ancient Egypt, the pharaoh, he lived just as good as the guy who built the pyramid. That's what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is
wealth is distributed evenly. You
so
say
that wasn't, but that wasn't because of capitalism. That was because of birthright. That was because of birth being passed down in lineage because of the culture that was in Kemet. That had nothing to do with a materialistic or financial system. So that example can't really apply.
He wanted to take his money with him.
But what I'm saying, he didn't get the money because of any type of resource gain that other people had to lose something from. The reason that any king or queen in ancient Kemet was so wealthy, whether they took it with them or not, was because of their birthright, was because of their lineage. So that's a different type of situation. You can't really apply the idea of capitalism.
Who created that system, though? That's my point. Who created that system? Because he's saying Uhuru created capitalism and he's evil, so they didn't share it. So the system is evil, but it's the same system in Egypt. Who created that system?
So again,
evil people who created that to have the wealth at the top only through your bloodline, and then everybody else is dirt poor.
So are you saying that's how every Egyptian practice or empire, that's how it ran? It was capitalism, right? And there was no communalism. That's what you're saying? Like there was no community group. Because
are y'all asking me?
No, I'm asking Baba because
okay.
I'm not saying that because I don't believe Europeans created capitalism or any economic practice. I think they took things and they created they reform it to serve their own purpose. So what I'm saying, your idea and our idea of capitalism is heavily shaped by European people who makes us believe that capitalism is just the normal way of doing things. And that's not the normal way. So I'm not saying the
normal way, because you got different societies doing different things. France is a socialist.
And I'll take back the word normal. I'm saying it's a parasitic way. If you have me, right, making all the money, right, and y'all two doing all the work and I'm paying y'all trinkets or whatever, like that's imbalanced. That's not a balanced thing. It might feel good and it might be normalized because of hegemony, but it won't be a balanced thing. It's not necessary.
You got to put it like this too now, right? Who's taking all the risk? Like, if you putting up all the money,
but that's not how it works. That's not how it works, though.
You put up all the money for an endeavor, and then I ask the sister and me and the sister come along to help. But you put up $1 million to do something, and me and the sister come along to help you out. We should all split equally. You would be down with that?
He's not down. Me? He's not me? That's still capitalism. Like okay. If we currently this day and age in America, I would expect that's how that would work. So if you're putting up all the money, if we all three went in on a venture and maybe I had a creative idea, but you guys funded it, then that might be a situation where I would expect us to split it equally. But if there came a situation where you guys put in drastically more of a resource than I did. Let's say I just did something, maybe bookkeeping, or maybe I don't know, put the prospectus together that helped you get the funding. I wouldn't expect to get an equal, slice of that pie. I think I'm just lost in how that applied to ancient Kemet. You know what I'm saying? So I think somewhere, I know you muted me because I had some noise going on over here. I think I missed the transition.
I had to mute him while you talking because when both of y'all talk, it cuts everybody out.
Okay.
People can't hear.
I'm sorry.
But so one of the things, and I think going back to that first question about are we truly living in capitalism? So Bible talks about, well, if somebody put up the money. So Europeans have been able to legitimize their criminality by saying, well, we have the access to it and you don't, and you're just a laborer. Well, if they control the land that they got, they control the resources, they build up wealth off your backs. Of course, they're going to always have the money, the land, the products, the equipment, or whatever. So we can't say that like it's fair now. You didn't get a fair try at owning the land. You didn't get a fair try at owning the capital.
Right.
So if they got all the fair tries at owning capital, then there's no way you could justify capitalism and saying, well, they bring in the money. Well, how did they get the money?
Hold on a second. How did they get the land? All right. Now I'm gonna answer that question. I'm not asking. I'm gonna answer the question. Right. In this world, right, things are not fair. All right. We look at nature and we want to be a peaceful people. We want to be a humble and peaceful people and get along with everybody. But this world is violent. You know, the Caucasian came here and he conquered. He conquered this land. He didn't just come and say, move over. No, he fought for it. He came to Africa and he conquered. You understand what I'm saying? So it wasn't that like it was birthed right to him. He fought for it and won. That's the spoils of war. You have war. People say, you have it, I want it, I'm gonna try to take it from you. We just butt hurt because we lost. The American Indian lost. In Africa, we lost. He went to China, found gunpowder, came back, invented a gun, went to Africa, took over. Went all over the world, took over. That's what he did. And that's how he got in control. You listen, man. I mean, you gotta give credit to what happened. We just can't say, oh, he was born into power. No, he came here. He fought the Indian for this land. He fought the French. He fought the Spaniards, and he won. And he took over. I mean, that's how he got it.
So I don't know about sis, but so I don't think nobody will excuse that how they got it was through violence or whatever. But I'm also not gonna say, oh, I'm praising this military prowess, this people who are parasitic, people who kill all people, enslaved people, and the way they got it might have been violent, but give credit. Like I wouldn't give credit to them. I'm just. That's proved the point where when I say it's parasitic, it's like you're using other people, you're victimizing other people, and maybe again, is that what we're saying? Well, because they did that and they quote unquote won. The game that they created, we need to learn how to play. That's kind of what I'm hearing. Sis, I don't know how you feel.
Right. I completely disagree with that. I think it's an insane. Well, to me, as a Pan-African, it's insane to say, well, we all know that the world is unfair. We know that. But to say the world is unfair, violence rules, they came and conquered, that's how they got it, diminishes the fact that before chattel slavery, that wasn't in effect. So let's not pretend like the European was the global power before invasion and colonialism, or further than that, before chattel slavery, because it was not. It was a group of different European countries that disliked each other. So it wasn't that the Yurugu is violent and went all over the world and conquered, and war is fair, and that's what it is, because that's not the case. We are talking about capitalism in America. So how did the white man in America become at the top of the food chain? And it is because of chattel slavery. And chattel slavery came out of transatlantic slavery, which only happened because of invasion and colonialism. So I don't buy the excuse that white people, they just did a better job than we did at war. That, you know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, the Yurugu doesn't function under the same universal laws that natural humans do. And so they should not be the epitome. They should not be the example to follow behind. It doesn't matter how far in advance they are, because if we take our eyes off of thinking that money is the answer, that money is the higher thing to achieve, because the explanation that you just gave seems that to say that we need to be playing the game that we're playing if we want to get what they got. But who's to say necessarily that we want to get what they got? Because if we get taken out of the environment that we're in, we may not have the same philosophies and desires that the European has.
Right. So, like, this is what I want to do, because I want to put us back in the conversation, and it's going to take us to our next question, right? So, I don't know if you guys got the chance to read Dr. Jared Ball's The Myth of the Black Buying Power, right? And so, here's a unique thing, especially keep it in the same tone of, oh, well, Europeans did it better, give them credit, they value system or whatever. When we talking about consumerism, right? And then we talk about capitalism. Would either one of you guys say that we are spending our money, we're not circulating the black dollar, and whatever else you want to say about black folks, and that's the reason why we're in the position that we are in? Will any of you actually say that or agree with that? Or again, will it be something else? Because again, I don't know if you read the Jared Ball's book, but black people circulating their dollar and buying stuff and black banking or whatever is not going to get black people out of white domination in itself. They need policies, they need repair and reparations, things like that. And just to take this notion that we can circulate the black dollar is the same rhetoric of black capitalism or pulling yourself up by your bootstrap. So again, we'll when you think about this condition that black people are in, would you say that it is because of our behaviors and consumerism or anything else? Whoever want to go first.
Yeah, I can go. I think no. My short and sweet. The answer is no. I don't think that we are in the position that we're in because of our spending habits or our or because of consumerism. Because, like we said at the beginning of this, at the beginning of the hour, we are such high consumers. Well, at least that's my opinion. I believe I stated we are such high consumers because of how far we are behind the average white American in terms of the wealth gap. If we were more on equal footing, there would be you'd see a drastic decrease in materialism and thus consumerism by the average Black American. Because the reason why the materialism started, like they say what's the phrase? Keeping up with the Joneses. Is because we had far and few Black people who were actually looked at as wealthy at one point, and collectively still we have a few in terms of our collective population that can be identified as wealthy. So those who were made it a point to flash it, and we are naturally a flashy people. Even in Africa, I mean, we're a flashy people, but in terms of the money, the reason why that started to happen was because we wanted to show, hey, I'm Black, but I got this. You know what I'm saying? I'm just as good as the white man. That was something that we started doing in the 40s and the 50s. When it came close to being more involved with the everyday life of the Yurugu. Before that, when we were completely separate, that wasn't a concern of ours because we were more in a collective community mindset. After emancipation, Black people weren't just on a massive grab to see who could attain more wealth than the next Black man. That wasn't what was going on. That didn't happen until far later when we had day-to-day interaction with white people. And some of us saw what they had and was like, yeah, I want that too. And the few of us who attained that showed that off to ourselves, to other people in our communities. That's how the materialism came about. So it's not that I won't spend with you and you won't spend with the next Black man. So we, for whatever reason, we got this underlying hate for each other. It's not what it is. It is after being denied for so long, whichever one of us stumbles into the opportunity to get something, is you have something that you've not had before, or most people around you have not had before. So you are naturally inclined to want to show it off. At least that's my opinion.
Right. All right. Thank you. So what do you think, Bob, in terms of this myth of the black buying power? What are your thoughts on our condition? Is it because of our misfortunes and bad behaviors, or is it something bigger? What are your thoughts?
First of all, I don't think our buying power is a myth. I wouldn't classify it as a myth. I think our buying power is real, and we demonstrate it every day by the money we spend on the dumb stuff that we buy. But I think we have to understand how capitalism works in order for us to find why we're in the position we're in this country under this system. All right. Like I said, what drives capitalism is competition. You want to eliminate competition. All right. So what they do is they eliminated black people access to markets. They eliminated black people access to capital. You can't hear me?
No, I can hear you, but what you're saying is that's not free market capitalism. If you're saying that if you eliminate the competition's ability to participate, then that's not free capitalism. Like if black people don't have guns and ability to redline.
Hold on one second. What I'm speaking of is the human element in capitalism. All right. I'm not talking about the system. I'm talking about the human element in capital. Somebody, a person says, you know what? That Negro Baseball League, they got much better talent than we have. And as time goes on, there's more white people going to those Negro League games. They're going to compete with us. So what we have to do is we have to control the Negro Baseball League. So what we do, we bankrupt it, we put them out of business. White people control all of our production. They control our music industry. They control the sports leagues. They control the manufacturing of everything. They control the banks so that we don't have access to capital. If you don't have access to capital, then you can't compete in capitalism. You have to be able to access money. You put your money in the bank, but the bank won't loan you money back to open a business. So, you know, but that's a human decision. That's a human decision, you know, in order to keep you out.
Can I make a comment to that?
Wait. Before you make a comment, I'm gonna let you make a comment. But if you take that segment of what you just said, you would, and you read like the Jared Ball's book, y'all would be in agreement, because that's exactly what he's saying. Because what people do is they say, well, black people in a position because they're not financial literacy and they don't understand capitalism. That's why they're in a position, not because of all the things that you just said. And what he's saying is what you just said. Because of all those things, that's why we're in a position that we're in. But go ahead, sis.
Hey, that's what I was just going to say. I was just going to say what you just said. You're essentially agreeing with me that capitalism is a result of colonialism.
Right.
In this country, what you just said, the only reason why they have the power and the ability to do that is because of colonialism, because they colonized us. They colonized us mentally and physically, because if they had not, they would not been in a position of power to cut us off from anything. They would have kept us competing in the financial system in this country.
So real quick. Go ahead.
So essentially now, after what you just said, we're kind of on the same page philosophically.
Right. So let me read something. I'm gonna let you go, Bob. I'm gonna let you go. 1 second. Let me Bamani, what's up, brother? So he's obviously on here. He says we achieve higher societies without rape and pillaging. Our people is our problem is multifaceted. So it's a solution. While in Uganda, I met a man who didn't have a TV or iPhone, but had land as far as my eyes could see. that's wealth. So look, we coming towards the end, and I'm gonna let you go. We coming towards the end. We've been on here for an hour. Thank you for the sister and the brother who has joined us on this conversation. Bobby, what I want you to do is have your response that you're about to have a response, and then say your final thoughts on consumerism, the Black community, in a whole, like your final thoughts after you make your response comment.
My comment is really quick. When the sister said, that I'm in agreement that we've been colonized, right in the beginning, I said they colonized our minds. And you said, they colonized us mentally and physically. Yes, yeah, they colonized our mind. That's why we act the way we act. We've been trained. You understand? That's a major part of what keeps us in this situation. Like they physically colonized us, but now they took the shackles off of our hands and feet, but they kept the shackles on our brains. And to me, that's what keeps us in the situation that we in. My thoughts on consumerism, like I said earlier, we have to get on the other side of the equation. We have to get in the ownership side, the production side of the equation, so that we can have access to markets. The world is going in a direction. There's no place on this planet where we can go and just be left to our devices. You understand what I'm saying? We can be Pan-African, but we're going to have interaction with other ethnic groups, and other societies. That's just how the world is getting smaller and smaller and smaller every day. So we need to come in, unite, have a plan of action. You understand? We don't have to be concentrated in one area. We can be dispersed, but we can't be disconnected. We have to connect. We have to network no matter where we are. We have to be connected. That's what I'm hoping for with this new wave of consciousness, that Black people all over in the diaspora can be networked and connected. And, we can be wherever we want to be, but, we have to have the mentality of connection and still be able to deal with other ethnic groups on this planet. Thank you.
All right. I don't know if I went out just now. All right, sis, what do you have for your final thoughts as it pertains to consumerism in this discussion?
Okay, I want to just respond back to the brother quickly. What you just said in reference to me, I remember you saying that, but that wasn't what I was commenting on. I was commenting on initially when he asked, did we believe that the position we're in now was because of colonialism, which you said not necessarily. I was only commenting on that point. Which after this whole hour, it's clear that you agree too, that we're in the position that we're in because of colonialism. I didn't mention anything about the other aspects of what you mentioned. As far as capitalism, I think me and the brother are on such drastic ends of the spectrum on this topic, because I'm one that believes that the European and whatever the European is doing, even at the top of the food chain across this globe, I have no interest in it. I don't have an interest in being a part of the capitalistic system, because I'm a much simpler person. So I don't need a lot to make me happy. And maybe that's because I have a different set of attributes and appreciations than the brother does. And that's absolutely fine. But we're going down the wrong path thinking that we all want the same things. All of us don't want to compete with the white man. All of us don't want to be at the top of technology and at the top of engineering and at the top of building and or whatever the case is. Some of us, just like Brother Bomani said, are happy with a little land and a garden or a farm. So collectively, that's a bigger discussion that we need to have. while being dispersed all across the globe. We have to pay more attention to like-mindedness, because just it's not enough that a group of us believe that we are of African descent, or a group of us believe that we are Native American, or whatever the case is. It's going to go deeper than that. And this is a perfect example of the case. We can all be Pan-Africans and have completely different philosophies on what direction we need to go in collectively as a family. And I, for one, have no interest in following the white man, because I'm very clear that they lack something within themselves that allows them to live in unison on this planet and in this universe. So it's just not something that I'm interested in facilitating, being a part of, or supporting. So I think for that reason, we're it doesn't matter what we talk about or how much we agree. There's always going to be areas where we're going to be at odds, because you clearly see that the world is advancing. And yeah, the Yoruba is, well, actually it would be the Asian that's leading advancement, because technology is what's advancing the world right now. And I just don't have any interest in those types of things. So I think, for that reason, that, me and the brother are on the same page, but definitely have different visions.
Definitely appreciate you. So, thank you both for coming on. I totally agree with that latter part. I don't know if y'all with the latter part, or the sister, what she said. I think it was Dr. Amos' quote about, if the world comes to an end, it wouldn't be like the muggers and the drunks and the crackheads or whatever. It'll be people with degrees, the educated people. The most educated people will be the ones that bring this world to an end. And again, I would mirror that same thing. This concept of wanting to compete with someone, right, just in the sense to compete, doesn't make a lot of logical sense. So if somebody's out there harming women, I don't want to compete with them. You know what I mean? Like, now if they are doing some good things, I mean, it might be some kind of other word I want to use, but so I'm glad that you said that. But so Saturday is our next one. It'll be Experience 2. We're talking about mental health. Again, can y'all both tell people where they can follow y'all at, and anything else that y'all might got going on right now? And we'll close out the live when you finish with that.
Okay, yeah, you can definitely find me on Facebook, Afia Say. You can find me on Instagram, but I'm an artist, so my Instagram page is just all artwork. You can also find me at melanatedgreats.com. You can hit the chat or send an email. I'm super accessible. Yeah, and that's it.
Thank you.
But before I give my contact information, Geechie, I want to thank you very much for having me on. And Sister Afi, I want to say it's been a pleasure dialoguing with you today. I don't think we've ever met in person, but I can't wait for the day that we do meet in person. I want to thank you very much for dialoguing with me. I appreciate that very much. You can catch me on Instagram, Sutek Amen Ra, Sutek _Amen_Ra, and also my website, www.ksp4ever.com. That's ksp4ever.com. Peace and Black Power, family.
All right, peace, y'all. Appreciate you. See y'all Saturday.
Peace.